Just a fence, they did. Well, it was an old fence and just needed replacing. It was probably at least 25 years old. We bought the house about 5 years ago, and it was just starting to fall down, and I got tired of repairing it, so it just needed replacement. No, I actually had thought about doing it myself. The posts were in pretty good shape, so I thought, hey, I'm kind of a handyman. I could probably get a couple friends and we could probably, take care of it by just buying the lumber itself. And actually thought about that a couple years ago, but eventually it was like, I don't think I want to tackle that. I'm just going to go find somebody to do the whole job. Well, actually some neighbors had recommended, they had used fence and deck and had a good experience with it. So they ended up on my list of places to check and get bids. Well, always. We did a lot of remodeling on this house when we bought it about 5 years ago and moved to St. Louis. So we started from scratch, and I was very fortunate to have found some good contractors, but it's not easy. The other thing that I did to find other places to get bids from was I go on social media and I ask friends and family, did you have anybody that you tried? But when I look on social media, I really kind of scan and don't just pick any one thing, but I find if there's a common thread or if there's multiple people that have all had good experiences and not had bad experiences, because you have to be careful trusting reviews, but you get a general sense that if this name shows up a half a dozen times in the last couple years, they probably have a relatively good reputation, and that's kind of what I use. So I had a list of probably 4 or 5 companies that I thought I'm going to ask them and at least get a bid from them and see what they have. And Fence and Deck was on that list because they showed up in social media with reviews, as well as obviously having neighbors' recommendations weighs a little bit heavier than reviews on social media. I think it was probably a couple things that really struck me. First was working with Dave Reichert, who was kind of the salesperson that did some of the other neighbors. I liked the way he approached it. He was kind of a no nonsense. Here's what I've got. Here's what we can do. Offered a couple suggestions, and even from there, the price was competitive. It wasn't necessarily the best price. And I'm not looking for the low ball kind of thing, because you in some ways you get what you pay for, not always. But anybody can build a deck and anybody can put up a fence. So there's a lot of people out there and contractors, that will try to just, hey, I work on washing machines, but I built a deck, so do that. So I think finding somebody that is a professional, but Dave did a good job. And then, once I got the bid back, I think it was Billie Jean Meyer was kind of the contact in the office, and she just did a great job also of communicating, letting me know I had questions on the bid, so they answered them right away. And so it was just overall, I felt like they really were paying attention, not just, oh, here's another job, I think we can get it done. So that's probably the first thing that struck me. And I guess the second thing was just the quality of the materials, because I was able to see the work that was done at the neighbors' houses and compared that to the other companies. And the other companies weren't bad, but I just felt like, they used all cedar posts, they're oversized posts, and just the quality of the materials looked better than what the others did. So that was probably the second thing that really struck me. Yeah, absolutely. And I think if I remember, we actually kind of set negotiated and agreed to do the work maybe back in April, if I remember. But I really didn't want the installation done until June. So I kind of put some dates out there and said, hey, there's a couple weeks in June that would work great. We're not traveling, if we could work that in. And, so Billie Jean followed up, later, like a couple weeks before, and said, hey, it looks like we can slot you in here. Can you get the mark the sprinkler system and fences and all of those kind of things. And so it gave me a couple weeks notice, and knowing it was going to happen. And then whenever the marking was done, they followed up and said, hey, we're going to be there on a Tuesday morning. And they were. I mean, and as far as the installation, I don't know if you're probably going to get to the installation, but I was, again, continued to be impressed with that. Jackson and his crew, I don't remember Jackson's last name, but he came, he introduced himself, he said, here's the plan, here's what we're going to do. It was great. I mean, he was clear on, what he was going to do and what my expectation should be, and they finished in a day. And I guess the other thing that I noticed, because I kept an eye out to see what was going on, is they cleaned everything up. And many times that doesn't happen, but at the end, it was like he walked around and cleaned up any extra stuff or dirt or rocks and nails that were laying around. So when he left, I didn't feel like there was anything, left over after that. So I think that was, to me, a sign of a good crew, is if they all paid attention to do that. Yeah, I mean, I don't have to get my nail gun out and repair all the boards that are falling off. So that's probably the most positive thing from that standpoint. Is it just, and I look out and it's like, I have a nice fence. I don't have to be embarrassed that the neighbors are going to go, are you ever going to replace that fence? So that's the positive, side of it. And I feel like it's probably going to last, again, probably longer than I'm going to need it to last. I'm old enough, I don't care really about lifetime guarantees anymore, so I think it's going to be good. Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely say, get a bid, talk to them, and see what kind of work they've done. And I definitely recommend it.